Forgotten Realms because you beat a dragon. I mean, come on, guys. You're starting at level 1.
You didn't beat no dragon.
You didn't. Yeah. So
that was a kobold. That was not a dragon.
And you lost.
Welcome to Hunt for Peace, where we combine our love for Dungeons & Dragons with our mission of helping raise mental health awareness. Before we dive in, a quick note. This series discusses D&D adventures, including Icewind Dale, Rime of the Frostmaiden, which may touch on themes like isolation, loss, and horror that can be triggering for some listeners. Please take care and explore at your own comfort level. Let's roll the dice and begin.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Hunt for Peace as we continue to explore Icewind Dale. But today we're going to do it from a little bit of a different perspective. Today we're going to dive deep into character creation. We'll go kind of specifics for Icewind Dale. We'll also cover kind of some broad things with character creations, how that can work for you, how you can find yourself within your character, a lot of stuff like that. Again, I'm Dalton. This is my co-host and beautiful wife, Chamberlain.
Yeah, so this is the second episode of our series, Icewind Dale, and we're running this for a group of friends with focus on mental health. We talked about the setting, a little bit of introduction on why we picked this last episode. And so this episode, we're kind of doing like a session 0, just character creation. So this one's specific for Icewind Dale, but it could help for other campaigns too. So the Rime of the Frostmaiden is set in the 10 towns, where the endless winter and supernatural threats test your character's strength and spirit. So you'll create one character to play with 4 to 6 other players in your party. Today, we're going to craft a single hero, Kale, but then we'll also add some tips for you to craft your own character as well. So my idea with Kale is he's going to be a tiefling seeking redemption, and his story will reflect mental health struggles like self-doubt, finding connection. So starting with a concept that dives into the themes, I think with the finding connection, Icewind Dale is very isolated.
Mm-hmm.
You've got the 10 towns, but none of them really get along. There's rivalries throughout the story. A little bit of spoiler. Sorry. Spoiler alert right there.
So kind of with that setting, a Rime of the Frostmaiden, it's a lot of, surviving harsh, isolating environments, and there's got to be a certain type of drive with the character. So kind of how do you intend on shaping Kale to kind of face those things?
I think within Kale's backstory, I'm going to have some, he's faced rejection from community before. Then within the core motivation that each of our players have wrote down, his would be redemption and community. So a lot of his choices throughout the campaign is going to be tied to finding that community, because everyone has a community. So if you're being rejected by a community, it's because there's a better one out there for you. That's going to be probably the driving force behind the motivational factors.
I like that a lot. So Kale's arc's kind of gonna mirror finding purpose in tough times, like pushing through depression and kind of like you had said, not finding that sense of community. So really honing in on that. And you can kind of, to help you guys when you're building a character, you can really kind of brainstorm and find a way to formulate essentially a sentence or two that really encapsulates what you're trying to do with your character. So for Kale, that might look something like Kale fled to Icewind Dale to escape his past, but found a calling to protect others. So it's a very broad statement, but it touches, you can dive really deep into that in a lot of different ways. And then you can kind of find a way that whatever concepts you're wanting to come up with fit with the campaign's narrative, like this, as far as facing the Frostmaiden's despair and things like that, to really hone in on the mental health focus like we are now. So it can look a little bit different in a variety of different ways, whether you're going mental health directive like we are, or whether you're not. There's still plenty of ways that each of your characters and the way that you build it and formulate it can really tie into the campaign specifically, or you can go super broad with it. And as the campaign goes on, just find different ways to mold it within that campaign. And as the story progresses, give your character growth and things like that.
I think that's perfect. So, step one would just be to craft your character concept. It's going to be super simple of just figuring out your core values as your character. So, like we touched on, a core motivation, like the redemption or community, and then a one sentence backstory to build on. So, the next step is going to be to choose your species. This is always fun. There's lots of fun things. Number one is going to be making sure everything's approved with your DM. There are certain species that may not work in this environment. One species that does work in this environment that doesn't work in a lot of other ones is the Goliath. So if your DM does approve you to be a Goliath, that is a fantastic choice for this campaign.
That was my choice for my character for this campaign.
Another great choice is the Tieflings because they get fire resistance, which counters the cold. And their outsider status fits the isolation theme. Another important thing to note when you're picking your character is dark vision is going to be important. This campaign is set in, it's basically dim light the entire campaign. So definitely choose something with dark vision.
And just so you guys know, because I didn't know this, dark vision doesn't actually mean you can see in the dark. You can only see shapes. And like grays and blacks.
You can choose shades of gray.
Yeah, I didn't know that. I thought when I had dark vision, I could just see in the dark. Can't see in the dark. So keep that in mind too. But picking up there, tieflings are awesome. Love tieflings. I have not played one yet. I almost have a couple times, but I'm waiting for kind of the right campaign with the right build idea. I don't think I've ever played a tiefling.
Isn't your Darth Maul build a tiefling?
No. It's a
It is a tiefling.
We're gonna scratch that. I have played a tiefling. All right. We're gonna back up as your father likes to do. Picking up on that, tieflings are awesome. I actually have a Darth Maul-esque build that I've built around a tiefling that I've done in a couple of campaigns. Love it. Incredible, especially with the new update, Sci-Fighter, multi-class to Warlock. Boom. Literally Darth Maul. But staying on track, the different species play such an integral part of the whole process and the character build. You have dwarves, hill or mountain dwarves. They get like a +2 constitution and cold resistance, so that works super great with
blizzards.
With blizzards, and but I was going to brain. Works super well with campaigns like Icewind Dale, Goliaths, which is what I am doing in this campaign. They get a +2 strength and their cold resistance with Stone's Endurance. So they work very, very well for the harsh terrain of Icewind Dale, especially with some campaigns. You can kind of just ignore the weather in a sense, but you can also really tap super hard into it and make it something that your players are constantly having to worry about. So, I mean, in something like Icewind Dale, if you don't have shelter, you can't take a long rest because it's literally a blizzard outside all the time. And just different things like that that make it a little more realistic within the setting of the story. So knowing what classes can and can't navigate that well is super, super important. Wood elves are another super good one. You got a lot of different routes that you can go with elves. But you get a +2 dexterity, and they're great as rangers or rogues. Fey ancestry and the way that can like resist charm effects and things like that, which are common in this campaign with the Frostmaiden and things like that. So keep that in mind. Possibly need to blow up another spoiler bubble right there. Halflings are another good one, very similar to dwarves. And then your Ganassies, whether it's air or water, that little elemental flare can be super cool to play with, especially if you. It's one of those that aren't super common classes or species, I should say, not classes. So I definitely recommend doing some research before you just dive straight into using one of those types of characters. But if you do kind of know how they work and how they operate, it can make for a super fun play, especially in a campaign like this. The way that you can choose your species, super, super endless. You can do something important to you, you can do something generic. But with that in mind, aside from kind of the elemental side of it that you talked before, why did you choose Tiefling for Kale?
So I chose Tiefling because wildly throughout the campaigns, Tieflings are kind of the outcast species. They tend to be the ones that are judged or out. Be a half human. I'll be an elf. I'll be a high elf, like the very
How
commons.
original.
There's nothing wrong with that, but I like that this campaign really puts a highlight on some of maybe the less chosen species.
That
it
are
allows
so
you,
fun to play with.
yeah,
So
they're
fun
super
to play.
fun. Like even like with the elf having the wood elf choice, most people don't go wood elf; they go high elf. So I think that it's a good way to expand your horizons and play something new and different.
And like me personally, I have not played the same species in any of the characters I've made. Every time it's been a different species. For me, it's more fun that way.
I get stuck. I'm that person that like I just want to play an elf or a half elf, and I'm that person. So this is going to be a really fun campaign.
Agreed. Now, kind of looping back around to Kale, what class are you going to do?
Yeah, so that brings us to our next section. For Kale, I chose Paladin. Oath of Devotion.
I'm a Goliath Paladin.
Oh my gosh. Copycat. Obviously, Kale won't be playing in this campaign. However, I like to make a character with my players so that I don't know, who doesn't like making characters? It can be an NPC in another campaign. But I really liked the Oath of Devotion for the Redemption arc.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, Paladins, they have the strength, but then they also have the magic. And let's be real, there's going to be some brutal fights coming up in the Frostmaiden.
This is my first Paladin build I've ever done. I've never played a Paladin prior to this campaign.
You know, my first character was Cleric.
Mm-hmm.
My second character was Paladin. So.
Oh, yeah.
I really like spellcasting, but Paladin was great because I like to whack things too.
Yeah.
So you can do both.
Whack with some spells.
Yes. So back to the oath. We're gonna have Kale. With the Oath of Devotion, his devotion is going to be protecting the weak, those that cannot protect themselves. And I think that that's going to open up some really cool role-playing opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
I think that there's a whole community of D&D players out there that hate roleplay. Just give it a chance.
I was one of those people. I can attest. Give it a chance.
Give it a chance.
I was one of those people.
So you're also going Paladin, but like, what are some other classes people could consider for this campaign?
So up to this point, I really kind of have two favorite classes I've done for different reasons. One is very near and dear to my heart because it is the first character that I ever had in a D&D campaign. Obviously, because I'm a giant, Barbarian. And Barbarians can be...
Show everybody how tall you are. Or not, because it's not even going to...
This is going to cut off. Not sure what you can't see. I am a giant. So Barbarian just seemed to fit personality-wise and everything. For me, it was the best thing I could have done going into a D&D campaign that I wasn't really 100% excited about when I started. But grew an entirely different kind of love for D&D than I ever would have expected. But Barbarians can be so versatile. And that's going to sound really stupid.
Are you sure you don't just Rage.
Yes, but if you know how to play it, and the more you play it, the more you'll learn with it. There's actually a lot of different routes that you can go with the barbarian, and just the character growth and the type of role play that comes along with being a barbarian. Even though when you it's gotten to the point where when I think about barbarian, all I think about is Grog from '99.
Grog Strong Jaw. Pikey.
Like that's all I hear in my head
Oh my gosh.
the whole time I'm saying this.
That's my favorite character that he's ever done.
Same. But they're so fun to play. They're so fun to play. She had brought up raging and the different advantages that you have in battle based off being a barbarian. Multi-classing a barbarian with a fighter is unbeatable. It's just a super fun class to play, and it can also tie in very strongly with a lot of mental health things, especially when you focus on like the raging and things like that. It was literally what I did throughout high school, throughout young adulthood, to deal with my emotions before I started really understanding how to process. You let it build up, you rage, you violently let it all out. And not saying to do that very unhealthy way to deal with your emotions. Plenty of better ways, starting with talking about it. But just the way that can essentially mirror what is very natural, especially to men, when it comes with dealing with their emotions and things like that. So, kind of that tie in and being able to reflect on it can also give you a completely new perspective on how it is in game, but also how it is out of game. So, there's definitely a lot of benefits inside and out playing a barbarian character.
So with your barbarian character, if you were to pick barbarian for this campaign, what path would you take?
So, as a barbarian in this campaign, I would probably go path of the ancestral guardian.
Okay, interesting.
With the path of the ancestral guardian, one, mental health wise, taps into a whole different kind of awakening and ideology, real world style. So there's definitely a lot of things that can be interpreted from that and be super beneficial to you in your everyday life. But as far as for the campaign itself, so with Path of the Ancestral Guardian, you kind of summon, when you rage, you can summon a spectral warrior and kind of tap into the spirit side during your rage. So it really just kind of brings a whole different element to the already kind of like dark and gloomy setting that you get with Icewind Dale, but now kind of opening the door to another realm in a sense, just kind of adds another layer to it, and I feel just makes it all the more easier to really dive more into not only the character but the story itself.
I like that. All right, so barbarian, paladin, two options. We talked about my first build, a cleric. So my first character was a trickery cleric, obviously. Who doesn't do trickery cleric? That was a really fun build.
Once you figured out how to play it.
Yeah, it was my first time playing. Okay, it took me a while to figure out how to play it, but then I figured out how to play it, and I don't take damage anymore. DM, if you're watching this, there you're not. For this campaign, I would probably recommend a life or a light domain for ability to heal and banish undead. There's a lot of horrors in this campaign. Trickery is always fun. I would not recommend it. I would just probably go more healing / raising dead for this one.
That was kind of my motivation for the paladin, is we don't have a healer. So I figured if we take like a paladin and a bard, that the two of us together might give us enough healing to get by, but we don't have an actual healer.
That's okay. TPKs are fun. Ranger is another build I've done before. Rangers are fun.
But like a Gloomstalker Ranger.
Oh, that would be a good build for sure. They actually excel in the dark very well. This is obviously a dark snowing environment. Snow provides a very good tracking environment. I think Ranger is a perfect build for this.
Ooh, I didn't even think about like the tracking side of it. Wizards are good in every campaign.
Oh, wizard.
Especially wizards are another one, kind of like cleric, where you've really got to. It's more than just casting spells. You really got to kind of understand how a wizard works.
The wizard, it's a long game build for sure, but luckily this is a pretty long campaign.
I think it's still like level 15
ish.
I think somewhere around there. But yeah, as a wizard, you're like do nothing for the first couple levels. You're incredibly squishy. You're gonna get down every time there's combat if you're anywhere remotely close to whoever you're fighting.
Yeah.
But still super, super fun. Like I said, especially if you went like a School of Abjuration wizard.
So I think we're forgetting one, maybe?
Are we forgetting my favorite build, my favorite character to date that I have made?
You mean your criminal?
I'm Batman.
Listen, there's an entire community dedicated to hating Batman in campaigns. And I think it's hilarious that your favorite character is your dark Batman build.
Okay, I'm going to take a pause because this is the perfect time to elaborate on it a little bit and kind of dive into it. There are two different ways that I've really found to truly build a character in D&D. And one is to essentially kind of build it around yourself, make the character you, but spiced up and with all this extra magic or this or that you don't have.
There's a whole thing dedicated to not self-inserting yourself into campaigns.
But that is one of the ways that people make their characters, is they feel like it is an extension of themselves.
I think everyone self-inserts their first character.
Mine, I've gotten where I really don't. That's not the way I build my characters. Like we talked about earlier, I have the Darth Maul build. I have my Rogue Batman build. I have a Martian Manhunter build. That is what I like to do. I like to take these mythical creatures or heroes or whatever, villains even, from other things that I like and find a way to kind of like build and mold them into a D&D character. And for me, that's super, super fun. I personally don't really do the self-insertion, building it around my character,
what about Corbo?
Taking it personally. Even then, it was just a Dragonborn barbarian. Like, there were things about it that kind of mimicked me and my personality, but I never felt like this is me. Like, I am this character. That's never really been how I approach it, but there are a lot of people who do approach it that way. And even if there are Reddit boards that hate it, that is completely fine. Just because this is an escape. So if doing the self-insert build, for a lack of better terms, makes it easier for you to escape mentally and really dive into the campaign and the story for a little while, then by all means do it. If it's easier for you to find kind of external sources to be the main focus of your character build, that is completely fine. Just whatever makes it the most fun for you, makes it the most enjoyable for you, and again, just let you escape for a while. But backtracking, I don't care what the Reddit boards say either. My Batman build was fantastic.
My favorite part about his Batman build was when he wanted to buy something, he would just pickpocket people for hours to get money.
I'm a rogue. I have like a +7 sleight of hand at level 3. What else am I going to do? But it was, so Batman backstory as a drow mixed with a Targaryen, like long white Targaryen hair, dark purple drow, Batman backstory, named Lucerys, kind of tying into the Targaryen-esque angle there. Super fun, super fantastic. 10 out of 10 recommend. Don't listen to anyone. Do whatever you want in D&D.
That's valid. That's valid. Okay, so I think the most important thing, like you just said, choose a class you're going to have fun playing. If it's your first time playing, I recommend not choosing a spellcaster unless you're willing to put in the hours behind the scenes learning your spells. Because you don't want to be that guy at the table that when it's your turn to hit something in
45
combat,
minutes.
it takes you 45 minutes to read all your spells.
And to tie in with that, it's a little more time consuming as you're starting out, especially as a spellcaster. Find a character sheet PDF, print it off, do an actual paper character sheet, write down all your spells, write down your spellcast modifier, have all of that written down so you're not having to try and navigate D&D Beyond or any of your different online servers that you can use it, because it just takes all the longer. Now, as you get more used to it, I don't use paper anymore. I only use D&D Beyond because I know how to access what I need quickly, regardless how I'm playing. But I absolutely recommend, if you're starting off, do a paper sheet first. It is going to make you understand your character more. It's going to help you understand what you have, what you don't have, how your character works, your spells, all of that. So use paper to start is my non-professional, professional recommendation.
When we first started D&D,
we were forced to do paper. There wasn't we weren't even told D&D Beyond existed. We were forced to do paper.
Sweet summer children. We just wanted to play and whack things. We had no idea what we were getting into.
None.
Our DM was very old school. Still very old school. Refuses to use the internet. He shows up for session 0 with a player handbook and character sheets. And we played with the characters. We told him kind of what we wanted to do, and he built our characters to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
And then when we got to level 3, he said, okay, time to take off the training wheels. Took away our character sheets, made us go back to level 1 and write all of this stuff out. So I did like that because we learned kind of what everything did and where it was before we were forced to do our own character sheet. But paper is just, it's cool. It's easier to homebrew on paper. It's easier to keep up with things on paper. But everyone's going to have their preferences. But yeah, I really like that tip. Okay, sidebar over. I think that it's time to start with ability scores. So I like to do point buy. You can do rolled. Some people prefer rolled.
I was going to say we should have brought dice so we could roll for them.
But point buy is great. So for Paladin, I would start with strength. Obviously, as your number 1, you need it the most in combat. Charisma for your spell casting, so that's your spell casting ability. Constitution for your durability. Con is something that a lot of people don't pay attention to in some campaigns.
Everyone's stat dump.
Because, well, usually intelligence is, but con's second dump. But because a lot of DMs don't like messing with the weather or sickness, things like that, like unless it's specifically written to the campaign or con checks, they usually don't use that. This book calls specifically for a lot of them. So don't ignore con if you're playing Icewind Dale.
I don't know what my constitution is.
So for Kale, I did 15 strength, 14 con, 13 charisma. Again, we want that high con.
And your charisma boosts with the tiefling.
I added the charisma boost, so I ended up with a 15 total for charisma, a 12 on wisdom, 10 on dex, and 8 on intelligence. Because who needs religions? Not paladins. That's always the silliest thing to me, is you're like a religious being and you know nothing about religion. Because you dump intelligence because you don't need it as much.
Because that's the only thing you need it for, especially as a paladin. You're never going to use it. Charisma is your spellcasting modifier. Strength is your hit. Dex is your armor class. Con is your...
It's so awkward though, like as a paladin, you're trying to
initiative
with your spirituality, whatever your casting source is. Your god, whatever. I won't say casting source, that's warlock. However, and then you're like, okay, make a religion check, and you've got a -1. It's embarrassing.
Whoopsie. Wouldn't know, never played a paladin before, but I am now. But I'm also not going to be a verbally intelligent paladin.
Oh, really? What's your paladin's name?
That is not important, other than the fact that it is Hodor. I'm a Goliath paladin named Hodor that will speak in a very Grog-esque, Hodor-esque, unintelligible manner. So that is going to be super, super fun. Super well versed when it comes to battle, not super well versed when it comes to verbiage. So that's going to be an adventure in and of itself.
So for the other classes, what would you recommend?
So barbarian, strength, 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 and then just whatever else is left over can just kind of go wherever.
Constitution. Constitution.
Yeah. So strength and constitution are going to be absolutely your main two. And then second over constitution at times, depending upon your species. If not, absolutely third, dexterity for a barbarian, because barbarians have horrible armor classes.
That's why you're tough and mighty.
You have a super high HP, but a super bad armor class.
Well, you would just put some clothes on.
Don't stat dump dexterity so that you can have a little bit better armor class with the shoddy armor that you are allowed to have as a barbarian. But again, that's why you multi-class to a fighter. Break the system.
I think clerics, number one's gonna be wisdom. That's your spell casting.
Yeah.
Rogue, obviously
Dexterity, so you can steal money when you want to buy stuff.
Or avoid fireballs when the wizard inevitably does not care how big the room is.
That too.
Wizards, speaking of wizards, you are going to have really good religion because you want high intelligence.
And another thing for wisdom is...
Wisdom?
Is that not what you just said?
Wizards.
Wizards. I heard wisdom. I guess I have wisdom. We can't cut that out.
I wasn't planning on it.
Being mean to yourself, not a good thing. Don't call yourself dumb. Don't call yourself stupid.
What if I was
it was a play on words. I had to do it. Don't talk negatively about yourself. Love yourself. Love your friends. Love your neighbors. Be good to yourself. But when an opportunity like that presents itself,
it's fine. You don't have to explain
take
yourself. And speaking of wisdom,
that's where I was going. Speaking of
any class, you want to prioritize wisdom because of this specific campaign. Fear and charm effects.
And that kind of goes into know a little bit of the backstory of the campaigns that you're playing. Otherwise, I never would have known to. I'm pretty sure I stat dumped wisdom. I'm pretty sure and
I'm pretty sure
intelligence.
you told your brother to do that as well.
Probably because he's a warlock. So, again, do as I say, not as I do. But just don't Google and spoil yourself on the campaigns, but have a little bit of a backstory so that you know if there's going to be elemental effects and story effects and things like that. So if there is a stat that you would normally dump with a certain build, you can kind of say, okay, maybe I kind of put that in the middle just to help yourself along in the story.
I would say though,
but again, don't spoil yourself, don't ruin it. But
if you're DMing, I think it's okay in session 0 or before session 0, however you do your campaign building, to just tell your players like, hey, you're gonna see this a lot. So maybe build your builds around it. And I don't think that's breaking the system. And I don't think that's cheating because the characters are from the town, so they'll know kind of what skills they would need to survive in that town. So I don't think you're breaking. Some DMs are like, oh no, they can just build their players and show up and deal with it.
Mm.
They should have built a better system. I'm like, well, they didn't know what system they were building their character for, but the character has lived in the system their whole life, so they would know what skills they need to hone.
Exactly. Kind of coming in on the tail end of that, tell us about, just because I know you prefer this and respect this in a completely different manner than I do, especially as a DM. How important is your background when you're building a character?
That is going to depend on your party and your DM. So, to me, I love backstory. I love background. It makes this game more real. It makes your character more real to you. So they add flavor, they add connection. You can know the other players, you can meet them along the way. To the point where I love half sessions. So we do session 0 for character creation. Everyone submits to me background ideas. And then we do a half session where we actually role play a major story arc in that character's past that created their will to want to go on these adventures.
Interesting.
It buys the characters into the campaign more. It buys me into their backstory. It allows me to connect them more to the story because you're a group of heroes. Of course, your background's going to come to it. I mean,
and it gives us something to go off of too, because that can be super awkward, especially with like session 1, when none of you know about each other's characters and you're just wandering around like a bunch of squids. Like, there's just no one knows what's happening. No one knows why they're there, what they're doing. So that just kind of fills that and keeps it from being this kind of like awkward dead space to start.
So for example, almost every campaign starts in a tavern.
That, or you're in one within like 12 minutes of actually starting session 1. So either
you find a job board, and these are now your companions to complete the job, because they also responded to a job board, or they had a call to action in a tavern, they all meet up, whatever. Okay, so the common goal in this scenario is that 4 to 6 adventurers are going to be sitting in a tavern, staring at the other ones like, oh, hi, my name's Glorbo. Yeah. And that's it. The Glorbo doesn't have a reason to be in this tavern other than metagaming outside game. I want to play this game, and Glorbo is my character. But Glorbo had his mom taken from him by the Frostmaiden, sacrificed to the Frostmaiden herself, or however, when Glorbo was a young dragon, witnesses this. Glorbo has a strong hatred for the Frostmaiden, as devoted his life to stopping her. Gets the call to action to meet this tavern, to join a group of other adventurers with equal ties, and now they all have their own reason to be taking down the big bad, or whatever the campaign is. And then, so even if the party doesn't have a reason to be together, they have a reason to build that relationship because they all have the same common goal.
Exactly. It's not like, kind of like you had touched on before, where when it's just the job board or whatever, it's, oh, hey, how are you? I'm Steve. Yep, great to meet you.
I'm Bob.
Versus me now, like, I'm hyped up just listening to you do that backstory. But it's like you walk into the tavern, you have this energy about you. It's like, are y'all the ones? Like, we the ones? Y'all the ones? Now we the ones? Like, there's just a whole different energy and ideology to it by having that, like, you don't even know these characters and you already have a bond with them. Like, these are my brothers, these are my sisters. Like, I will go to the blade for you strictly because of that 2-minute backstory that you just gave.
Exactly. Like, you have a reason to be there, and it's a driving reason. It's a reason that anybody could resonate with.
Exactly.
And so everyone's going to be a little bit different. We're doing our first half session this week. So the way I'm going to do it is I'm going to meet with, if the characters don't know each other, I'm meeting with them one-on-one for about an hour to do a backstory session. And then it'll be up to that character to role play with the rest of the party to divulge whatever information they feel necessary to build the relationships with the party. Mm-hmm. And of course, everyone drew their secrets, which is one of my favorite parts of Icewind Dale. Everyone has a secret that they have worked into their backstory, and I was able to derive a lot of these half sessions from the secret, because we've got 3 newbies. They're like, what the heck is a backstory? So we work through that. And so we'll do the half session, we'll get them really invested in their character, and then we'll move right into session 1.
Now, with that, going from a more general perspective, what are some of the... Because there's the preset backgrounds that you can kind of choose, but you can also just kind of take one and just kind of the shape of it, and then really get personable underneath that shape to make it what you want. But what are some of kind of the starter ones, and what do they entail?
So, going into backgrounds versus backstory, your background is going to heavily influence your backstory, because that's where you came from, obviously. Rime of the Frostmaiden in the book actually has a list of backgrounds, which is most of them that are approved. Haunted one is a really, really good one for this campaign, because you end up in an isolated 10 towns. The only people drawn to this town are going to be people with haunted backgrounds that like doom and despair, or they experienced it from the 10 towns.
And the haunted one, is that what you chose for Kale for his background?
Yeah, so the haunted one, it's actually from Ravenloft, so you'll need to get it approved by your DM. But it's a haunting of his past failures, his past rejections, things like that. So it's really him taking his backstory and overcoming those things.
But it's really showing that by going the haunted one route, it's really showing the true internal effect that all of those past experiences and traumas are really having on who he is as a person. And just kind of shows how far he's going to have to go to really overcome that.
Yeah, definitely. Another one I really like for this is Folk Hero. Folk Hero is always a fun one. And it's like, if you are not super heavy into like the deep things, like you don't want some deep dark backstory, Folk Hero is great, because it could literally be like you beat a Goliath in an arm wrestling match or something crazy, and now you're just like, you're known throughout the town. It doesn't have to be like you're known throughout all of the Forgotten Realms because you beat a dragon. I mean, come on guys, you're starting at level 1.
You didn't beat no dragon.
You didn't. Yeah. So
that was a kobold. That was not a dragon.
And you lost. But that brings me to another point. Is level 1, please keep your backstory realistic. You did not fight a trove of bandits and win at level 0, essentially. So kind of brainstorm some ideas. Like, if you want to be a folk hero, like, it can't be anything extravagant. Yet. You're going to have great adventures, just not yet.
Outlander, I think, is another one that definitely works for this campaign, but doesn't take a whole lot of true deep thought and things like that. I mean, you're just an Outlander, so you're proficient in athletics and survival, which is super great for wilderness, but it's not like you have this really deep, dark backstory. You're a tree person. You live in the woods, you harvest the land. I mean, it's just... It's like you're a hillbilly.
It's a little bit like Hermit, but not. That's also not true. But yeah,
I mean, there's just not a whole lot that. I mean, you could definitely make it as deep as you want it to. It's just on the surface. Doesn't have to be deep at all. Doesn't have to involve more than 3 to 5 minutes of thought, and you've got a full Outlander backstory.
Another one that would be good. Acolyte is good for clerics or paladins, people like that. You get a bonus on insight and religion, so that's nice.
Being a criminal as a rogue is always helpful,
but it may not fit your party vibe. If you're in a party of paladins and clerics, they're probably not picking up a criminal rogue, so just keep that in mind.
Unless they need a criminal rogue. Every party could benefit from a criminal rogue.
This is a biased opinion.
No, because it is D&D. are you always going to have to open a locked door?
Depends. Did you check to see if it was locked before you started trying to bang it down?
No, we don't do that. We're playing D&D. No one just checks to see if the door's open. You have to either kick it in or lockpick it.
What if you lockpick it and you lock it in the process?
Then you lockpick it again and you unlock it. But criminal rogues, sleight of hand, stealth, always beneficial. Rogue, always beneficial. You don't have to be a criminal, but it's more fun if you are.
Alright. So that's a few. Just, obviously it's not all of them. The list, we would be here all day if we went through the list. It's exhaustive. But, why are you blowing on me?
Eerie whisper.
Okay, so we are almost done making our character. Yep, okay, great. Feats and skills. So, Kale's paladin skills are going to be athletics and persuasion, plus investigation and arcana from the haunted one. So my tip to you would be to pick skills that enhance your role playing. Persuasion lets Kale inspire, supporting his vision of leading and protecting others, and helping other people through depression and dark times in the 10 towns. And investigation is reflective of like self-discovery, finding lost things.
And just in general, feats are one of the coolest things about this game. I love feats. I mean, I guess it depends what you're into, but I mean, it's feats, so plural.
Could be both.
Feats is normally 2 feats.
I have 2 left feet.
How does that work out for you?
Great for you, not so well. Your poor toes.
Yeah, touche. But if your species automatically comes with a feat like a variant human, resilience, super, super good for a campaign like this. Sentinel as a paladin helps protect allies, kind of works into that standing up for others thing.
Magic Initiate is my favorite feat because I love to blast.
Yes, healer for any clerics or any whoever you're playing as a healer, super, super, super fantastic. Kind of back into skills for rogues, tapping more into stealth and perception, sleight of hand, deception. I love really all of those as a rogue.
Wizards, Arcana, Insight.
Barbarians, intimidation. Past that, that's really about it for barbarians.
Give me your best intimidating.
Roll intimidation.
Give me your best intimidating stare. That's the smolder.
The smolder.
Just hit me with that smolder. Okay. Alright, so equipment. This will be up to your DM. The specific campaign says to take starting equipment and gold. So you should take your starting equipment from your class and your gold from your species.
Oh wait, I did do that.
So Kale is going to start with chainmail, longsword, and a shield, a holy symbol for whatever background I chose. So we've got our whole character together. Kale is a crimson tiefling with silver horns and a fur-lined cloak. His eyes glow with resolve. So, as a little tip, when you're moving into your session 1, when you inevitably have to describe what the party sees for your character, really tie your equipment into that and do like a little blurb. Like, what are they wearing? What do they look like in their armor? What is their attitude? And I mean, it doesn't have to be long. Like, you don't have to be critical role level, like where they spend 10 minutes describing their amazing characters. But I mean, just if you don't know, like it gets to you, and the DM's like, well, what does the party see? Glorbo. I just keep calling you Glorbo. I just keep going back to your first character. And you don't want to be like, Dragonborn. I'm a Dragonborn. Like, kind of write down a little description of like what you picture your armor and everything to be, and then that way the party can get a better idea of what you look like.
And customize it to reflect not only read the equipment that you're getting, but to reflect the equipment that you're getting, the class that you took, the background that you took, the species that you picked. All of those are going to play a part in it. So like the equipment that you have, if you're an acolyte or a soldier, your equipment's going to be battle worn and things like that. You're going to show, and like for Kale specifically, you're going to show physical scars, but as well as kind of like emotional scars, which can play a part in your appearance too.
So for Kale, with the fear of rejection, you could describe Kale as a tiefling with, instead of resolve in his eyes, it could be reservation. He's scared of being rejected.
Yeah, he's kind of closed off.
He's not willing to open up to this new party just yet.
Like, you don't see this full expansion of what his armor looks like. You see more of a closed off version of it. And just kind of small adjectives like that can really help not only the DM get an idea of who you're trying to be as a character and who they're gonna grow to be, but also give your other characters and the people that you're playing with an idea of, okay, how do I want to approach him, because he's kind of closed off. So you're not just going to go full-fledged all the way into it. You're going to approach him with a little bit of intimidation and try and just spark up general conversation, try and get the shoulder turned, and trying to get him to be a little bit more opened up. But then kind of also in a more realistic standpoint and kind of more to the DM, make sure, like with Icewind Dale, make sure that your people have like winter clothes on, because you're not going to be a barbarian with a little tapestry over... There you go. A little loincloth tapestry over your private parts and just be buck nude in the middle of a blizzard. Like, that's not what we're here to do.
Yeah,
your clerics aren't in a bra and panties. Like, that's not what... Give them winter clothes. Make sure that they know they're wearing winter clothes. Set the setting for the campaign itself, but also set that setting for your characters of what they're doing, where they're at, how they're dressed, all of that, just so that everyone's on the same page. And just keep it realistic. It keeps it all the more interesting and fun when you're actually being realistic. Like, ignoring the weather in Icewind Dale would completely defeat the purpose of playing this campaign whatsoever.
That's not fun. Okay, so next up in character creation is going to be the personality and mental health arc. Mental health arc is our doing, not D&D, just so we're clear. But, so for Kale's personality trait, I chose, I carry pain quietly, but fight for others. This it goes along with the ideal redemption, and everyone deserves a chance. My aka Kale's bond is, I owe the 10 pounds my life. And Kale's flaw is, I fear my past defines me. So these are going to be your guides for not only your backstory, but also your role playing. So if you're having trouble formulating a response as your character rather than yourself, these are what you'll go back to. A lot of people kind of don't put a lot of stock into these, but if you're in a heavy role play game, these, if something is happening in the game, 10 towns is under attack, Kale's not going to run away because Kale owes 10 towns his life.
Mm-hmm.
So he's going to stay and fight rather than, run. Like some people would choose to do. Be like, oh, that's not my problem.
Yeah.
I just got here.
And kind of like she had said too, we're going with that much deeper mental health aspect of it. That's really, with Hunt for Peace, that's been the goal from the start, is really just expanding and bringing more eyes and more resources to those who need help with mental health, suicide awareness, things like that. So tying in D&D to that has been super, super important. I absolutely recommend any of you guys out there watching or listening, give it a try. Really tie that mental health aspect into it. You can take any of the things that we're using and utilize them. You can tweak them, you can change them. If you need to bounce ideas back and forth, you can absolutely reach out to us at any point in time. We'd be more than happy to talk with any of you guys about that. But so much deeper even than what she just went over with Kale's is the extent that you can do this with any species, any class, any background. There is not a singular character that you could build in D&D that you could not incorporate this mental health aspect with. Like with barbarians, I channel my pain into strength. Rogues, I hide my fears behind my smile. Like there's so many different ways that you can go about it to not only make the game that much deeper and that much more interesting and draw everyone into it even more, but the real world effects and positive outcomes that can come from that are absolutely second to none as a DM or as a player.
Absolutely. And I think that within these personality traits, you could really play with them to really tie into the mental health aspect, like that. I hide my fears behind a smile.
Mm-hmm.
Who hasn't done that? I mean, come on. Who hasn't smiled through the pain or said I'm okay when you're not, or just because it's the social norm?
Channeling your pain into strength. What do you think every angry, anxious, depressed, sad, lonely guy at the gym is doing, or woman at the gym? Anyone, especially in today's day and age, that is so many people's motivation for even going to the gym, is to have, they need that physical outlet, but in a positive manner. That is channeling your pain into strength. So even if it's in a manner that you are not seeing, or dots that you're just not connecting, maybe you can't see the whole picture, like the connection is there for everyone. Don't be afraid to make it.
Absolutely. And I think that's where like the rest of your party is going to come super in handy, because Kale is going to shine with a party, finally finding his people.
Mm-hmm.
So really lean into that, make friends, renew your friendships, rekindle, whatever you want to call it, throughout this. And I think also D&D, like it really shows you that you can't do life alone. Each character in your campaign is going to have a different moment to shine, and I think that's the coolest thing about D&D is it's cooperative play. So the rogue's going to get their moment to disable a trap that would have killed a person, and then the wizard's going to get their moment to take down the big bad beast. The cleric's going to get their moment to bring back a dying person. Like everyone gets their moment, and like nobody could go take down the big bad Frostmaiden alone. It's going to take every single person. It's going to take a community of heroes.
And even then, we might still get TPK'd.
It's not Strahd, so maybe not. So I think that Kale is ready to fight. What do you think?
I think that's Kale. A Tiefling Paladin ready to take on the Frostmaiden and the demons and the winter animals. Owlbears. It's not a spoiler, it's on the cover. It's giant. It looks super cool. I really hope there's an owlbear. That's... Excuse you?
What?
The owlbear on the cover is the Frostmaiden?
It's pretty common knowledge.
I thought she was going to be like an ice queen.
I also don't think that's an owlbear.
That's definitely an owlbear.
That looks way more like an owlbear than any owlbear I've ever seen. Looks more like a giant owl.
Bear.
Owl.
That's what makes it giant, is the bear portion of it.
Okay, well, we debate the species of the Frostmaiden.
I still can't believe that's the Frostmaiden. Anyways,
Thanks for joining Hunt for Peace.
Hang on, time out. They need to hear this. The Frostmaiden is a woman, correct?
Yes.
Okay, then that was a typo that you made. Woohoo! Okay.
How do I? I'm trying to make sure that.
That is the Frostmaiden?
Yeah, it's an owl bear. She has hooves
Son of a bitch!
and horns. It's like an owl abomination.
Huh.
See, that's her right there.
So, turns out, after a very quick Google search, that is the Frostmaiden that is on the cover of the Icewind Dale campaign book.
The wives never write, only Google it.
If you didn't know that, now you know that. I did not know that, now I know that. It's also not an owl bear, it's an owl with horns and hooves. So, we'll address that later. But again, as she was saying, thank you guys for coming. Thank you guys for listening to us. Thank you guys for your support. Thank you for following us. We appreciate it. We appreciate all of you guys. And again, if any of you need anything, be it D&D or mental health, anything, reach out to us at any time. You can message us directly on any platform, anyone, anytime, anywhere. If you need anything, let us know.
And also the 988 hotline is 24 hours a day. Call or text. Somebody is there to listen to you. Until next time, keep fighting the darkness in game and in real life.
Thank you guys.